So this week we're going to be looking at Google Classroom. We're going to talk about how to set up your Google Classroom, invite students and parents, create posts in Google Classroom. So what you're looking at now is my view of Google Classroom. There are a couple of ways you can get to Google Classroom. So I'm going to go to my drive first. So if you are logged into Google Chrome and you've got your little waffle of Google Apps up here at the top, you can click there and go to Classroom, and it will open Classroom up automatically in a new window for you. And you can see all the classes that you are either enrolled in or classes that you are in control of. Another way that you can get to your classroom is just doing classroom.google.com. That will take you there as well. So either way, you can get to Google Classroom. Once you get to Google Classroom, you want to create a class or you want to join a class. So in this case, we want to create a class. So we're going to go to our little plus up here where we create or join a class. We're going to create. The only thing that's actually required is your class name. So if we make a science class, you can put in a section if you want to. You can put in a specific subject if you want to. But the only thing that is actually required is the science or is the class name. So I'm going to hit create. So now we've got our class created, and so you can see this is kind of what it looks like here, but I want to go back and look at all my classes for just a minute. So since this is the latest class that I've created, it shows up here. So you can see it first in my list of classes. I've got the name, the section, and it tells me how many students are enrolled in that class. The other thing that is really cool about Google Classroom is that when you create a class in Google Classroom, it automatically creates a folder in Google Drive for you. So if I go back and look at my Google Drive, I will see that I'm going to have a folder called Classroom. Now, I did not create this folder. When I signed in and started using Google Classroom, this folder was automatically created for me in my Google Drive. When I click on it, all the classes that I have in Google Classroom show up here. Now, I have a ton of classes, and a lot of these are archived, and we'll talk about what that means in just a minute. But this is basically every class that I've ever created in Google Classroom has a folder. And so we just created a class called Science 1. And so if I open this folder, there's no files in here yet, but as I start adding assignments, and we'll see that in a little bit, and we'll come back and look at it again, then we start getting these files inside our folder. Again, I did not create any of this. It automatically gets created. Anything that you load to your Google Classroom, copies of those files are automatically going to go here. So if we go back, the other thing that I want to show you is, let's say I don't like the order that my classes are showing up in. You can just simply drag those and rearrange them where you want them to be. The ones that you use most often, you might want closer to the top. The ones maybe you don't use as often, you might want to put all of them that are your classes first and then classes that you're enrolled in later. You can arrange those however you want to just by dragging them around. Also on each of the classes you have the three little dots, and we've said before that usually means more options. So if I click there, we can move it, we can edit it, we can copy it, and we can archive it. So you can make a copy of this class and rename it if you're going to be using it. You could edit the class, so when I click on that it brings back up those same options, and I can edit those options if I want to change the name or add something to it. You can move it, and you can actually, rather than dropping it, tell you where you want it to go and arrange them in this way. So you've got some more options here. Okay, you can also archive classes. So if you are finished with the class, if it's the end of the school year and you are finished with that class that you've been using all year, you can archive that class. It doesn't delete it, it doesn't go away. If I click on my three little lines up here, I can actually see these are all the classes that I'm teaching. So these are the classes that are active, that I have made, that I am a teacher or a co-teacher on. Below that, you will see the classes that I am enrolled in. So you might be enrolled in some classes. You will be enrolled in this class if you're taking it, so you'll see that class here. Then down here you'll see archive classes, and if I click on that, that's going to take me to all the classes that I've ever made and I have archived. And you'll know they're archived because you kind of see these little lines through the top of it here. I can still get to these classes, I can still look at the things in these classes, and I can unarchive these classes if I ever want to. I can just click on these three little dots and hit restore, and it will restore it to my active classes. From the archive, you can also delete a class if you want to. If you're going to be in archived, you might as well leave them unless they're just really bothering you, because you might find that there's something you want to go back and look at. So those are archived classes. Go back to my other classes now. And one of the other things that you may want to do, I'm going to open back up the class that we made, is make it pretty. So if I've got it open here, I can select a theme, and there's all kinds of different themes that you can choose from. There's different subject areas that you can choose from, kind of breaks it down. So I'm going to choose this theme, select that, and it's going to change. My class theme has been updated. You also can upload a photo from your computer if you have a photo that you want to be there. So that's one way to quickly make it pretty. Now let's talk about a few of the things up here at the top. Stream is where you will see all of the stuff that you put in your Google Classroom. We'll talk more about that in a little bit later in the video. Classwork is where we're going to actually put in the assignments that we want to assign. We'll talk about that as well. People is where you can see all the students and teachers that are in your class, and then grades. So we'll talk about all of those sections coming up here in just a moment. The other things that I want to mention to you, when you're in the class, if you click on these three things, you have a couple of other things. Again, you have where you can go back to all your classes. You can also go to a calendar view, and this is a calendar for all your classes, or you can actually select a specific class, and if we have due dates and things in here, those things will show up in your basic calendar. So that's kind of just the basics of Google Classroom and how to set it up, and we're going to look at inviting students and parents and creating posts and things like that coming up next. So now let's talk about how we invite students, parents, and co-teachers to our Google Classroom. So there's a couple of ways that you can get students signed up for your Google Classroom. The first thing you can do is go to your selection at the top that says People, and when you get there you have a section that says Students. You can actually click on the Invite Students button, and then you can either type in their name or their email to invite them, and sometimes it'll pop up, sometimes you may have to go ahead and type it all in, and you can invite them. So that's one way to do it if you're just wanting to invite certain people, and some of you may have received an invite for the Google class that you're currently taking to get Google certified. And so if you invite someone, they'll get an email request saying that they've been invited to join that class. The other way that you can invite students is by giving them a class code. And so if you are on the main page of your Google Classroom, you'll always see the class code right here. And you can hit display, and it will pop up here, and you can get your class code. And then you can even make it full screen if you need to. And just project that on the screen. Students can go in and they can join the class. And they will join the class by simply going to the plus sign and clicking Join Class. When they do that, they'll type in the class code, hit Join, and then they're going to be enrolled in your class. So that's the two ways that you can have students enroll in your class. The other thing you may want to do is invite a co-teacher. So maybe you have somebody that's working with you in that class, maybe you have a collaboration teacher that's working with you, and you want them to have access to and be able to add things to your Google Classroom as well. And so if you want to do that, there's a teacher section. And again, same deal, you just type in their email, when it pops up, and then hit invite. They're going to get a teacher invite, and they can join your class. They can do everything that you can except for delete the class. So you can always invite co-teachers. So those are inviting students and inviting teachers. Now you can also invite parents to be a part of your Google Classroom. Now, I'm going to go to a different class to show you what this looks like, since I don't really have any students in that class yet. If I go to this other class that I have, and I have all these students that are enrolled, and if I want to, all I have to do is click Invite Guardian, and it's going to send them an invite for that class, and they can accept that invite, and then they can set up the settings how they want. They can choose to get a weekly or a daily email summary of what's going on in the class, things that are due, assignments that are coming up, that kind of thing. Okay. While I'm also on this page, I want to show you a couple of other things you can do with students. So you can actually, if you have a couple of students, maybe a student that is moved or they don't need to be in that class any longer, you can actually select that student, go up to Actions, and remove them from the class. Another thing that you can do is mute them. So if they've been making comments that are not appropriate, things that you don't want showing up on the classroom comment feed, you can actually mute individual students from making comments. And we're going to talk more about comments when we get to creating posts and assignments. But you can actually mute a student, and they're not allowed to make comments on the class if you don't want them to. Let's talk now about creating posts and assignments in Google Classroom. Before I show you the different types of posts and assignments you can make, I do want to point out that up here at the top, when you're in the specific classroom or class that you have a settings bar. And when you open that up, you get those class details that you filled out earlier when you created the class. You can also find the class code here, which you can display, copy, reset, or disable. You might want to disable it if you have all the kids you know you're going to have in that class and you don't want anybody else to be able to join. Then I mentioned in the previous section that you could mute an individual student from making comments in the stream for everyone to see on Google Classroom. But I do want to show you that under General is where you can decide on those settings for the whole class. And by default, it will be set on students can post and comment. And for the most part, I think this is usually a good thing to leave it on, because you want students to be able to ask questions or maybe answer a question that another student posts from time to time. So not necessarily a bad thing to have it on, but you can also put it on students can only comment, meaning they can't actually put posts on Google Classroom, they can only comment, and again that might be a good setting. And you can also make it where students can't comment or post and only teachers can. But for the most part, I think that leaving it where students can comment is a good idea. And then we'll come back and I'll show you this classwork on the stream after we put some assignments on there. This is more just a setting preference for you. And then there's some other setting preferences that you can choose. But I wanted to show you the thing about students commenting before we get started. So, let's see. Let's talk about creating assignments for our students now. So in order to create an assignment, you're going to go to Classwork up here at the top, and you have some different options. So first of all, you're going to go to Create, and you can create an assignment, a quiz assignment, a question, material, or reuse a post. And we're going to talk about each one of these. Let's talk about a material first. So a material would be something maybe like an announcement, or it would be something that you're going to post that the students don't have to turn in. It's just some type of piece of information that they are getting for them. So welcome might be my title here, and then I might put in a message. Attached is the course syllabus. And then you can add from your Google Drive, from a link or a file or YouTube video, whatever you want here. So I could go to my Google Drive and I could find a document, whatever document is that I might want, and I can add that on there. And so this would just be something that students just need to reference, they need to watch a video, they need to have access to a document, but there's really nothing for them to do. That's an announcement. Now, when you're ready to post an announcement or an assignment or any type of post that you're going to put on Google Classroom, you have some options for that as well. If you are looking over here, you can pick the class that you want it to go in. So right now I'm in Science 1, and so that is checked. It's going to post to that class. The really cool thing about Google Classroom is if you have multiple classes that you have enrolled in Google Classroom and you want this same post to go to all of them, then you can check whatever classes you want it to go to and it will post to each of those classes. So that's one option you have. The other option you have that's really cool is that if you have multiple students enrolled, you don't always have to assign the assignment to every student in the class. Right now, it by default assigns to all students, but you can always click off of that and then just select the specific students that you want to assign it to. The other thing you can do is assign topics. And this might be really handy if you are wanting to be able to keep up with the different assignments that you give. You can create a topic. So you could do it a couple of ways. When I taught science, I would do the topic by what I was teaching. So if I was covering ecosystems at the time, then my topic would be ecosystems. And every assignment I put on Google Classroom about ecosystems, I would tag with that topic. You could also do it by week, which is what you will see in the Google course that you are taking, is that all of the assignments will be tagged with week 1, week 2, week 3, and so on. So it just depends on how you want to do that, but a topic is always a good way for you to kind of keep your stuff organized. Okay. Again, a couple more options for posting. You can just hit post. It's automatically going to post to your stream, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute, but you also have this little arrow and this drop down, and I love these options. So first of all, if you are working on setting up an assignment and you don't quite get done with it, you can save it as a draft and go back to it later and fix it, and then post it. You can post it directly, which is what we're going to do in just a moment, or you can schedule it. And I love this option because a lot of times you might be working on an assignment for Google Classroom the day before, the night before, and students are going to do it the next day. And if your students have Google Classroom app on their phone and they have it set to get notifications whenever you post something, then as soon as you post it, they're going to get that. And you may not want them to see it till the next day. You always have that one kid or two that might try to do it ahead of time and you don't want them to do that kind of thing. So you can schedule when you want it to go out. You can schedule the day that you want it to post, and you can schedule the time that you want it to post. Then you just hit schedule. It will automatically upload to that Google Classroom feed when you are ready. The one thing that I will say is I showed you earlier how you could post to multiple classes at once. If you're going to post to multiple classes at once, your only option is to post now. If you're wanting to schedule the same assignment for multiple classes, you'll have to set it up to schedule for each individual class. But you can still schedule, and I think that's one of the greatest tools, and I use that one all the time. And there's an easy way so that you don't have to keep recreating that we'll get to in just a minute. Okay, so I've made my announcement, so I'm going to hit post. And now my assignment is here. This is what I see under classwork, but if I go to my stream, I now see this is what it looks like in my stream. Now, I'm going to go back to settings for just a minute. If you take a look at how you see the assignment posted here, this is kind of a condensed version. If I go up to settings, I can change that as well. It says classwork on the stream here, and it says I have it set to show the condensed notifications. You can also have it show attachments and details, and if I do that, it changes the way my stream looks a little bit. Now I can see the full assignment, I can see the files that are attached, and I can see these class comments here. That is just a visual preference for you. You can do it either way you like. Okay? All right, so that's creating an announcement. Let's go create some more classwork. So I'm going to go to Create, and this time I want to do an assignment. So this would be something that the students are going to turn into you. So let's say, I'm just going to call it Assignment 1. And I'm going to say complete the attached assignment. Give it whatever instructions that you need. And then you can add an assignment from your Google Drive. Again, you can add videos, you can add whatever you might need to add to it. So you can go to your Google Drive and you can access all kinds of different files. Okay, so I'm going to find a file and I'm going to add it in. So I've added my assignment. Now, when you add a document to Google Classroom, the students have some different options. Okay, so first of all, automatically it defaults to students can view the file. So the students can open up this file, they can look at it, but they can't edit it or do anything to it. Okay, if you don't need them to actually do anything to the document, just leave it there. Okay, but here's your other options. You can have students edit a file. Okay, now if you do this, every student in your classroom is going to be editing the same file. So when they open it, there might be 15 students looking at the same document and editing that. And you do want that sometimes. You may have an assignment where they are all collaborating on the same Google slide deck, and each student's working on a different slide, and you need every student on the same file. That's great. You can set it there. The other option is to make a copy for each student. And if you do that, then every student's going to get their own copy of what you are posting. So just make sure that when you are putting documents on there that you have them set the way you want students to see them. But don't be afraid. If you mess it up, you can go back in and edit an assignment and change the way you want them to have it. Okay? Again, you can choose the class. You can choose for an assignment how many points you want it to be worth. You can give it a due date if you want to. Now, students can still submit work after the due date, but you're going to see that they turned it in late. You're going to have that message. And again, you can choose a topic as well. You also have the option now in Google Classroom to add a rubric. So you can create a rubric and open it up, and it'll actually give you an option to create rubrics in Google Classroom. That's a fairly new little tool that you have. You can also reuse a rubric. Maybe you've already created one, so any that you've already created in Google Classroom will be here and you can reuse one. Or if you have a rubric that you've already created in Google Sheets, you can always import that rubric into there. So that would just be something the students will be able to view so that they know how you're going to be grading an assignment that you are doing for them. Another really cool and neat thing that has just shown up on Google Classroom recently is originality reports. Students can actually, if you have this checked, then students can run originality reports before they turn in an assignment to see if they have accidentally plagiarized any of their work. Then, once they turn the assignment in, you can run originality reports and it will pull and actually show you the websites that students may have used and plagiarized when turning in assignments. Super, super new cool tool. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to assign this assignment. And then I want to show you what it looks like from the teacher view once it's assigned and the student view once it's assigned. So again, we've got this assignment. I'm going to go back to my stream and you can see this here. So here's my latest assignment. So with Google Classroom, the newer assignments are going to be on top. And so here's my assignment, here's my document. Right now I see that I've assigned it to one person because there's only one enrolled in the class, and 0 people have turned that in. So when I open up this assignment, I again see the same thing here. I can click back and forth. I can see the instructions or I can see the student work. From the student side, I can see what the teachers put on here. So I've got the welcome material, and then I also have this assignment. When I open up this assignment, I'm going to see whatever attachments the teachers put in here, and then I'm going to see options to add or create other things, and I'm going to see the option to turn it in. So from my view as a student, I can open up the document. Because it was made to be one that I could edit, it's going to have my name here and then the name of the assignment. I can actually type in the assignment and edit it, and then it automatically will save. And then when I'm ready to turn it in, I can hit turn in. And now on the teacher's side, I can see, if I refresh it, that one person has turned in the assignment. Now, regardless of whether the person or the students have turned in the assignment or not, you can always click on their name, open up the document, and see the progress that they're making, and even make comments on what they're doing while they're doing it. So, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. So that's kind of what you see from the teacher side and what you see from the student side. Now, once a student submits their work, it's not theirs anymore. It now belongs to you, and they can't edit it once it's submitted unless they unsubmit it. And they do have that option. They can click unsubmit and open that work back up, go in and do any editing that they need to before they turn it back in. Sometimes you might ask students to also attach additional files, and they can do that by hitting add or create, and they can do it straight from their Google Drive. They can add a link or they can add a file. They can also create new doc sheets, slides, or drawings straight in Google Classroom. Let's go back to the teacher view now, and let's go back to our stream, and let's look at doing a question now. So I'm going to go back to classwork, and I want to create a question. And so when you do this, this would be something that you would be asking for everyone to comment on. So what is your favorite animal and why? Okay, and so this is a short answer question, which I have set here as a short answer. Okay, again, you can pick the class, the students, give it grades, and you can choose for questions whether students can reply to each other and whether they can edit their answer, and you can click however you want those to happen. And if we ask the question, again, you can schedule those as well. If we ask the question and go to our stream, okay, here's our question. And if we go to the student view, update it. Okay, then you can see that the question is here and the students can type their answer. Okay, and then they can hit turn in when they are finished. The other type of question you can do, I want to create another question, is to actually do a multiple choice question. Okay, what month is it? And then I can do multiple choice. Type in your answers, and you can do where the students can see a class summary of what's been answered or not, and then you can ask that question. Once we look at our stream for it, we can see the question here, and if we update our student view, we can see what the students see. So they can mark an answer and hit turn in. So that's another type of post that you can do in Google Classroom. Let's look at what else is available. You can also do a quiz assignment. So if you were going to use a Google form and give a quiz, you probably are most of the time going to go ahead and make that Google form and then insert it into Google Classroom. But you don't have to. You can actually make it straight from Google Classroom. And so once you do this, it will do a blank quiz. You can click on that blank quiz, create your quiz in Google Classroom, and then assign it. Okay. The other thing that I want to show you that you can create is reuse post, and I absolutely love reuse post. So if you have created a post for our class, so let's say that this assignment 1 that I've done, I want to reuse this same post and I want to assign it to a different class. So if I go up to my classwork and I hit create and reuse post, then I can choose that same post and assign it to another class. I can also pull in assignments from other classes and assign them to this class. So if I go to my 3rd period science class and I want to assign this final review to my new science class, I'm going to click on the assignment that I want to use, hit reuse, and it's going to pull the title, it's going to pull the instructions that I gave to the other class, it's going to pull any of the attachments that I had. Then all I have to do, if I need to edit any of this, I can add any other files, I can change what the students see or how they get this, the point value, I can make the due date and the topic, and then I can assign this. And so when I do that, it's going to show up in the new class that I created. This is great for if you need to schedule the same assignment for multiple classes, because you can just reuse that post and do a scheduled time for each class. So really, really like the reuse post section, and I use that a lot. Okay. So that's about all there is for creating assignments. Lots of choices for you, and you can kind of create them and edit them as you will. Before we move on to the next section, I do want to show you one thing. Remember that I said that when you create a class in Google Classroom, it automatically creates a folder in your Google Drive. There's a couple of ways to get that. First of all, if you're in classwork, you will see a folder here that says Class Drive Folder. If you click on that, it's going to take you straight to the folder for that class, and you can see that we have the assignment 1 that I made. I also reused a post called Science Final Review. When I click on the assignment 1, now the assignment that I gave is in here. If I had multiple people in this classroom, every person would be listed with this document, and I can click on their document here and I can grade their document if I want to from here, or I can grade it from Google Classroom. And we'll talk more about grading and giving feedback in just a moment. You also can still go to it straight from your Google Drive, click on Classroom, click on the class, and here it is. Okay, so all kinds of assignments, and they're always going to be found in your Google Drive. So you never want to mess up that class Google Drive folder or delete that, because all of your stuff is there. Look now at giving feedback, making comments, and grading assignments. So I'm going to go back into our science class that we created. And the first thing we'll talk about is class comments, because we haven't talked about that much yet. And so down here on each assignment, there's a place where you can add a class comment. And this might be a good place to add a comment if you need to clear up some questions about an assignment, if you forgot to tell the student something and you want to add something to it. This would be a great place to put those comments. This is also a great place for students to ask questions about an assignment, and then you can respond and answer those questions through a class comment, because a lot of times students will have the same question over and over and over again. If you can answer it in a class comment where all the students can see, that kind of takes care of that. So class comments are a great place for things like that. If I click on this assignment, and I can see that the students enrolled in the class and the assignment that I gave them, and if I click on a student's name, then down here at the bottom I now get an add private comment box, and so I can actually leave the students private comments that only they will see, and they can respond back to me in a private comment as well, and it's not something the rest of the class sees. So private comments are a good place to talk back and forth to an individual student. Let's look now at grading assignments. So if I open up this assignment, what I see here is the actual assignment that they were to complete, and then over here on the right hand side I have a few options. So right now it's set on files, so all I see here is the file that the student has submitted. Now if they had turned in more than one file, they would all be listed here and you could click through and get on the one that you wanted. Right below here is the grading option. So here's where you can actually put in a grade for the student, and you can add private comments here. And I do this a lot of times if I'm grading an assignment, especially if they lose points for something. I might clarify why points were taken off, or I might give them a compliment about something that they did really well on an assignment. You can also comment within the document about specific things. And so this little icon up here is where you would insert a comment. Now, when you do that in the document, right now, I have this box selected. If I actually want to make a comment, say, about this question, then I can click on that box, click Insert Comment. It's going to highlight that box in yellow, and then I can leave the comment, make sure to insert a photo. And I can hit comment. And now when the student goes in and looks at this, and they can do this before, if you are looking at a document before they've turned it in and want to make comments so that they can do things before they turn it in, they can do that, or you can do this after they've turned it in as well. If they've seen your comment and they've done whatever it is you ask, they can actually hit resolve, and that comment goes away. Now you can go up here and you can open the comment history. Say you go back and look at a document that a student has been working on and you think, I know I commented on that student's work and asked them to do something and they didn't do it. You can actually look at the comment history, and you can open it up and you can see what comments you made and what the student did about it. And if they just hit resolved and didn't actually do anything about it, you can hit reopen, and that is going to reappear for them to work on and finish up. So that is one way that you can make comments directly on a document, and that's doing that in Google Sheets. We can look at some other examples as well. So if we go back out to our classroom and we open up a Google slide deck, we can make comments here as well. So I can click on a slide, and if I want to comment on the slide that this student has created, I again just use that add comment button, and then I can type in the comment that I want to leave. If you just add a comment without highlighting any text, then that comment's just kind of a general comment for that particular slide. Or if you want to comment on something specific that a student said, you can just highlight that, add in the comment. It's going to highlight that in yellow, and they'll know you were talking specifically about that particular thing. You can also go to Insert and comment on any of these documents to get the same thing. So that's adding them in slides. We can also add comments in on a Google Doc. So if I open up a Google Doc, again, the same thing. Whatever you want to make the comment on, just highlight that text, add comment. You can add the comment that you want for that particular piece of text. Now I want to show you one other way that you can make comments for students when they are working on a document. So if we look up here right now, I've got this little pencil and it says editing mode. So right now my document is in editing mode. So any changes that I were to make to the student's document would actually appear on their document as changes. But sometimes I may just want to make some suggestions to them, some ideas of things that they could do to improve their project or their paper, or maybe things that they should insert. So I'm going to change this to suggesting mode. And so when I do this, and I can go down on the document and just start typing, And when I do this, it will put kind of a green box around it, and it appears over here to the side that this is the suggestion that I'm making, that you should add plants to this box in your table. And the student, when they go in and look, can say either yes, I want that to appear, and it appears there, takes the green box around it, and it's just now part of their document. Or they could have said no and hit the X, and it would not have appeared. Those are just suggesting edits and not something that has to happen. So just another way that you can do that. One last thing I want to show you when we're talking about students and editing and documents is that sometimes students will come and say, all my stuff got deleted, or if they were working on a project with multiple people, so-and-so deleted everything. I can't find what I made. It's gone. And that's really not an excuse that they can use when they're using Google, because Google has this awesome feature called revision history. So I'm going to open up a document here that I know several people have worked on. And so this was kind of the final copy of the document, but you can actually go back and see all the versions of this document that were made. And you do that by going to File and Version History, and then go to See Version History. And what pops up over here on the side is everyone that edited and when they edited the file. So right now we're looking at the latest version that was edited. But if we click back and we go here, we can see that Heidi Mallory actually edited this document on February 3rd. And when you click on it, you can see that her name has a little blue dot beside it over here. And then the things that she edited are going to show up in blue, and if you hover over it, her name will appear. If we go back a little further, you can see I edited the document on January 31st, and there's a little dot out beside my name that's orange, and anything that I edited appears in orange. Now, if you go back and you want to actually restore a version, so say you actually want the version that was last edited on February 3rd at 8:15 a.m. Then you can hit restore this version and it will go back to that original version. If a student comes and says it got deleted, nope, just go to version history and you can find the latest version, or you can find the version that you're looking at. So that's a great tool to use, because sometimes we do make mistakes or things do get deleted by accident, but they're kind of always there when you're looking at Google. Okay, last thing that I want to look at is notifications, because you probably want to make sure that you're setting your notifications so that you are not getting too many emails, too many notifications, but you're getting just what you need. So if you go up to our three little lines and scroll down to settings, click on settings, you have several choices for notifications that you can get. So first of all, you can decide whether you want to receive email notifications for the different options below. You can actually turn that completely off, meaning you won't get any notifications through email about your classes. Or you can pick and choose. So the first little section is about comments. Do you want to get notifications when people comment on your post, when the comment mentions you, when private comments are made on work? So you can turn those on and off as you decide what you want to turn in. The other option you have are classes that you are enrolled in. So for example, you're enrolled in the Google certification class. You can go in and you can actually choose what notifications you get for classes you're enrolled in. Do you want to know when returned work and grades come in? Do you want to know when you're invited to join classes? Do you want to know when you get due date reminders? What do you want information about? This would also be something really good to go over with your students when you set up a Google Classroom with them, and let them know that those options are there. The same options are also available on the Google Classroom app, and I'll talk to you about that in just a moment. And then you have options for the classes that you teach, and so you can decide what you want to get notifications for. Do you want to get a notification every time a student submits something late? Do you want to know if they've resubmitted work? Do you want to get invitations from co-teachers? Do you want to see when a scheduled post is published or failed? I do keep this one on a lot of times, especially if I've scheduled stuff, because I want to make sure things go up when they're supposed to. But you can pick and choose what you want to get notifications about. Then you can also pick and choose which classes you're actually getting notifications about. So these are all the classes that I'm either enrolled in or are my classes that I've created, but some of them really aren't that active, and so I have the notifications turned off for those. Others that are pretty active, I have the notifications turned on. So you can pick and choose that as well. So just be aware that you probably, as you're setting up Google Classroom, want to look at the notifications and set those up how you can. And I'm also going to show you what it looks like if you're using the Google Classroom app on your phone. So I want to show you what the notifications look like if you're using Google Classroom on your phone. So if you open up the Google Classroom app on your phone, you should have a list of all the classes that you have made for your students. And then if you go to the three little bars and scroll down, which looks very similar to what we looked at on the PC, you'll see a settings. If we go to settings and notifications, you can see that there's several choices you can make for how you get notifications on your phone. First of all, you can enable email notifications. You can turn that on or off. It's whichever you would like to do. You can look at class notifications. So you can see which classes you are actually getting notifications for. So I have several classes on here. Some of them I still want to get notifications for. Some of them aren't really used as often, so I have those turned off. Then you can choose about commenting. Do you want notifications when people comment on your post, when a comment mentions you, when private comments are made on work? You can also make decisions about classes you are enrolled in and classes that you teach. So you can look at what you want to get notifications for classes you're enrolled in, and also for classes that you teach. And so you can turn those things on and off. So just want you to be aware of that those are on your settings for your app on your phone, and that you can use those anytime that you need to.